being here with us tonight for our regular council meeting, May 14th of 2015. Excuse me. We are very pleased, as has become our norm around here, to have Councilmember Denny Manning lead us in our invocation and pledge to the flag. If everyone would please stand.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we want to say tonight, Lord, we thank you for another day, Lord, to be here today, Father. Bless this council, Lord. Bless each one that's here. Touch up families, young with a death angel, please. Touch them, strengthen them, Father. And Lord, help us make the choice the way you have it to be done. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge this flag, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Janet, if we can have the roll call, please.
Mayor Lambert,
Here?
Vice Mayor Rabbit,
Here.
Councilmember Cagle,
Here.
Councilmember Manning,
Here.
Councilmember Sewell,
Here.
City Manager Hyde,
Here.
City Attorney Miller.
A couple of things before we get too far into our agenda tonight. Did I hear correctly earlier that item B is not going to happen? Item B, the special presentation, are we foregoing that? Okay, so remove item 3B, the special presentation. And I also want to have you make note of item E, resolution 2478. We are pulling that. That's under new business. And so item F, the fiscal year 16 budget presentation, will become item E.
2478.
2478, yes, sir. That's item E under new business. We're pulling that. And so item F will become item E. With those changes made, we will consider the consent agenda. Everyone has had opportunity to review the minutes from the April 23rd agenda work session, as well as the April 23rd regular council meeting. We will entertain a motion. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Rabbit,
Yes.
Councilmember Cagle,
Yes.
Councilmember Manning,
Yes.
Councilmember Sewell,
Yes.
Mayor Lambert.
Yes. At this time, we will entertain communication from citizens. I think we had a couple of folks sign in, and if you didn't have a chance or didn't hear about the need to sign in, then we'll certainly recognize you once these other folks have come before us. All right, the first name is Renato Mizutani. Is that correct?
Right.
All right. 5330 Berrien Avenue. And you will have 5 minutes.
Okay. I'm also the Spanish teacher at Switch High School. And I'm here today to see if the city will be interested in helping restore the tennis courts. I coached the tennis team this past season, and I was thrilled that we have full courts. Everyone in good conditions. I did some research, and the courts are open to the public, so anyone in the community research can use it. And they're not in very good conditions. But I got things started and made some phone calls. And someone is donating some windscreens, which was my first idea. Okay, let's hide some of the stuff and then start working it out. But for my surprise, they're giving the windscreens, but I cannot put it in because there are some trees coming in. And even if I put it in, it would kind of tear, because I'm hoping I can put it all around the courts. So I need some help with that. I'm not sure if the city can help out with that. Other things that I've been doing at tennis courts is the pressure washing. I found someone that the grandson goes to school. So they offer the services for a very good price. So the tennis team budget was able to cover that. I would love to repaint the lines. The courts do have cracks, but I did some research and it will require resurfacing the entire court. So for now, I think that if I can pressure wash, repaint the lines, and put the windscreens, I think anyone that would like to play the sport will have a very good experience. Other things that, you know, if you're serious about it, you'll get to find new nets and the resurface of the courts, which I had someone getting an estimate. So the cost would be around $20,000 to resurface one. That's probably an estimate.
All right. Well, thank you for coming to us and bringing this to our attention. I agree. I think anyone who goes by the tennis courts can see they're in pretty rough shape. And I know it hasn't been that long ago that I would go to those courts. It's been probably 10 years, 12 years, and the condition has gone down considerably since that time. I know for a long time, a lot of years, a lot of East Ridge residents have gone there and enjoyed playing tennis. And I can remember also a time when there were sometimes lines. You would have to wait to be able to play. It was such a popular place. So thank you again for bringing this to us, and certainly we will take a look at
I appreciate it.
what we could do to help.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Comment on that?
Absolutely.
Do we have some grant money or something that we were gonna do down at the park with tennis courts?
We do the recreation grant, the $100,000 grant that we got from the state. Part of that plan was to include, I think one or two tennis courts down at Camp Jordan. I don't know if that can it all be used anywhere other than Camp Jordan based on the application. Is that correct? You have to
We've
use
already
it there.
moved it once from Monroe to there, and that was very touchy to be able to do that. I think Mr. Hyde will tell you, I don't think I'd recommend trying to move again.
Right.
Those courts belong to the county, not the school system, but they actually belong to the county.
They do.
We may offer the commissioners if he would help. I think we could do street work and painting the lines and such as that. Matter of fact, my grandson came to me last week. He started taking tennis lessons. They go over there and play, and he said something to them about how bad they were, for something we could do.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yes. Absolutely.
And I'll feel talk.
Just an idea.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. Every idea is welcome, you know.
Mayor, would Jim Boyd not be okay?
He would certainly, be in a position to help.
I feel like as long as the county, they should put the money on. I'm like him on mine, helping on the trees,
Right. Certainly, and I think we could, look at either the list of needs that's already been created, or maybe there are other things in addition to that we could look at. But whatever the case, we probably can help in some manner. It's just a matter of
The lights work down there now,
what we can do.
lights still work.
Yes, and I forgot to mention that I'm a former tennis instructor. I used to work at a club downtown called Make It Back. So that's why I see the benefits. With those courts in better shape, having someone looking over it, offering tennis clinics, private lessons, I think that the city of East Ridge could really benefit. Not a whole lot has been done on the court. We just pressure washed. So we got the dirt out, but we're able to see how bad the conditions of the paint is. So I'm thinking the lines, if they're in good shape, I think we'll still have a good experience playing.
Speaking of painting, every year we used to go down before school started, fix up the front of the school, we'd always paint the lines and everything. When they come in first day of school, they're coming from nice. I think we need to continue to do stuff like that. And I think, you know, painting that would be a part of it.
Yeah, I would agree. Thank you again. All right, next up will be Matthew Block. 706 Hiram Lane.
Good evening. I just wanted to come up here because I've been to a lot of council meetings in the last few months, and I've noticed one thing over and over, and that's that when it comes to Camp Jordan and the Parks and Recreation Department in general, there seems to be a lot of confusion sometimes about where the money is being spent, and the taxpayers seem to be quite unaware. As it's been referred to, people call it a black hole, money pit. I've heard all kinds of things. And of course, you can go and look at previous years on the comptroller website and see that before 2012, the Camp Jordan and the Parks and Recreation Department brought in about 24 cents for every dollar spent. And since then, it's been increased to about 42 cents for every dollar spent, but it still averages about $700 million a year in expense that's greater than revenues. Now, of course, that doesn't take into account tax revenue that's brought in tourism and other things. But the problem where it is that it gets murkier when you look at current years, because unless you sit down and take the March financials and go line by line and spend 2 hours to realize that this year we're probably on track to make more money than last year, the expenses look to be similar. It's impossible to keep track of. You know, I hear resolutions being made to take money from the light fund, to pay for the playground equipment overrun. I hear other such resolutions going on. I hear Mr. Martin saying in the back, you know, remember that the money that comes in from the select teams goes into the general fund. I think that the Parks and Recreation Department really needs to have its own fund. It accounts for over $1 million worth of spending. It brings in $500,000 in revenue. And for transparency, clarity, accountability, accessibility, so that taxpayers can have a good idea of what exactly is going on, and the council also, it should just have its own fund. So that way it's clear, it's on paper, you don't have to go through line item by line item to figure out what's going on, and you don't have to go and look at previous audited financials. That's all. And I just know with the new budget coming up, now's probably the time to think about that if that's going to happen. That's my point today.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And you're absolutely right, though, as we begin the budget process, that this would be the time to start looking at things like that.
Mayor, can I?
Yes, sir.
One thing I can say for Camp Jordan down there, years ago, back in my younger days, we wouldn't bring nothing in. We was losing all every time we turned around. And right now, our Camp Jordan's doing great. It's getting better every year. And I appreciate Mr. Martin and all the rest of his works down there on this. And comment I'm going to state maybe makes people mad at me, but it's okay. But the catch is, it's not a black hole money pit. We got kids down there, loves it down there, and some of you need to go down there and sit and watch, especially even the new playground. I love it. It stays full about all the time, off and on. And so it's not a black hole money pit. It's something that we need in our city for our kids to be able to do something outdoor, something more skills to get out in the street, get hurt, or do some other stuff. But I'm proud of our Camp Jordan down there.
Thank you, sir. Certainly not a lack of activities to plug into. All right, and next, A.B. Lowry, 819 Mount Belvoir Drive.
This must be the night of recreation. This is my subject as well. Okay, I've been to you before about how I would really like something down at this end. I would like the council to consider putting in, I got on the internet and started pricing a bunch of things. People my age group, which are not in their 80s and 90s yet, but are not into line dancing and aerobics, which is basically what goes on over here for age groups. However, there's so many other things you can do for physical activity and for not that much money. I understood, when I asked before, I asked for shuffleboard and horseshoes. They were ordered, but for whatever reason, they were sent back. And then I think badminton, croquet, and cornhole. These are things that a whole family can play together. It doesn't have to be just a senior event. Seniors can also, older people can also teach these kids these games that are not really that big. You want to get them off the streets, have something out here for them to do, because not all of them go to Camp Jordan. Not all of them are ball players. And I figured shuffleboard being the most expensive thing, but all those things with 2 cornholes, 1 croquet, 2 badmintons, 2 horseshoes, and 2 shuffleboard courts come to less than $3,000. So, I think that's a very small amount of money for a large group of people that would get use out of it. You got the parking lot over here behind the playground for things like shuffleboard and things that needed a hard surface. That parking lot is not really used that much. And, you know, you've got your grassy area behind here. There used to be 2 sets of horseshoe pits back here when the community center was built 20 years ago. I don't know what happened to them. But, you know, you could control it. Kids don't have to necessarily be able to check out the equipment, because all this stuff has equipment with it. So you'd have to be able to do it with an adult. But it'd also be something that if I wanted to do and not do something with kids, we could do that as well. A lot of people I've talked to, we like to have tournaments. I mean, this is what people our age group do. So, but all of these things have physical activity to them. It's just not a routine that not everybody does. So I really wish that you all would think about just sticking a tiny little bit of money over here and perhaps giving us a couple of little things. And then we'll have a tournament against the council. You know,
That
see how
wouldn't be
good
fair.
you youngsters are.
You would drill us.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's a great idea. I think it'd be wonderful to have it back there.
And again, a good time to be bringing up this kind of thing as we move into in our budget period. Thank you very much. Okay, do we have anyone else? Okay, maybe Mr. didn't get a chance to sign it. Okay, I see no one. We will move to communication from council members, and I don't know why I always go to my right to start, but I'm going this way tonight. I'm going to start with Mr. Cagle.
Yes, sir, I've got several items right here that I'd like to discuss tonight. One of them is the old fire hall problem. I understand there's a problem down there about the title. Could someone answer that question?
We are attempting to finish up the paperwork with TDOT. They have basically, there's a process you go through with Excess Land Committee. We have gone through that process, and they called me yesterday and let me know that they're moving through that process, and had another conversation today with a different representative from TDOT, and so hopefully we're going to have some resolution on that very, very shortly.
Well, how much more is this going to cost us down there?
It is, without going through the entire process that TDOT undertakes. When the property was purchased by the city in 1999, an appraisal was done by TDOT. We paid at the time 29% of the appraised value.
We actually paid.
We paid it. $50,000. The appraised value was $175,000 at that time. There was a restriction in the deed that the city was to use it as a fire hall. Apparently, institutional knowledge was not here at the time last year, when we began the negotiations of the incentive agreements with Bass Pro developers. So after we had struck that deal, TDOT contacted me specifically and said, we need to do some paperwork to get this restriction lifted. I had no idea what they were even talking about. So they sent the documents to me. I passed them on to staff.
Was this 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
No, this was last summer.
Oh, last summer, last
Yeah.
June?
It was July, June, July.
Well, like, right around August or September, when we started our process.
So, anyway, the process is that it has to go back through the Excess Land Committee to release the restriction. So the paperwork was turned in, the excess.
Restriction of the fire hall use of it?
Right, right. So the Excess Land Committee said, yes, we will lift the restriction. Instead of saying, okay, you all need to pay the remainder of the appraised value as it was in 1999, they commissioned a new appraisal to be done. And so they have gone through the new appraisal. They have finished that. Again, that's what the call was yesterday when they informed me that the appraisal had been done, and it's a big figure. It's $600,000 is what the new appraisal is, and the city will be responsible for paying 71% of that. 71%.
A little over $42,000, probably $420,000
Roughly.
on top of the 29 we've already paid.
On top of 50 we paid in 99 or whatever that was.
I misunderstood, I thought it was 29.
No, 29%.
Oh.
We paid 29% of $175,000 in 1999. So we had paid $50,000 back then. So, frankly, the guys I talked to from TDOT were a little surprised that it came back as high as it did.
Are they willing to negotiate?
I don't think so without going through the whole process all over again. And we could, I suppose there would be a mechanism for appealing somehow, but if we appeal and it takes months and months to get done, then potentially we put the project in jeopardy.
So have we got the money for this?
I would assume so, based on the reserve fund that we have, as well as
The reserve, we said we had $4 million in here a while back.
yes. I haven't talked to that about dollars.
You do have cash, big cash. That's what the council decides, but
Well, we need to, is something we need to bring, we need to wait next meeting, or we need to try to do something?
Well, I mean, it's,
We need to get paid.
exactly, I think,
That's holding the project up,
right, and I think,
pay as soon as, because the citizens are getting tired of looking at nothing going on down there, promises. So let's pay it.
absolutely,
Start.
absolutely, I agree, and
And put the monkey on our back, the monkey's on our back now.
And one thing about it too, again, undeniably, it's a kind of shock that we.
Because it sounds like we got
Have to pay.
followed up there on this thing, and not remember this restriction.
Well, and that's the thing, I think. Yeah.
there's no one here, nobody here, no one here.
I know,
Right,
but
yeah.
it should have been somewhere in the papers.
Yeah, and it that it was definitely a surprise to me. I think at this point, we pay it, and, yeah, I mean, if we want to talk to them about it later, hey, can you all provide some additional assistance, TDOT, I mean, on the interchange project or something, because I think they're surprised. Again, I think they're surprised that it came back as high as it is. And
That's what we need to do, is we need to.
oh, absolutely. And I did, again, I talked to someone in Nashville today with TDOT, and I said, what do we need to do? We can hand deliver a check if we need to do that. And he's, for the sake of getting things done. And he said, yeah, he thinks, that would be a good idea. And he's going to get back to me. He said we probably would just need to submit that to the regional office, which is over there on Cromwell Road, close to where I work actually. But he would get me the specifics of who the check needs to go to, and how quickly we can get it resolved.
Well, would this be a refundable item through the?
I believe it would. I believe it would be an eligible cost that
We would submit that.
We can submit.
that ultimately we could get paid back for.
We would submit that in this fiscal year for fiscal year 15.
So
We did bring it up, vote to pay.
I think we're obligated to, based on the incentive agreement, and we're obligated to give them the fire hall property. So I don't know that at this point, if we attempt to change course, then we're in violation of
I said,
our part.
we get a check, start writing a check tomorrow, get it to them.
I would agree, as soon as he gives me the information as far as who to get it to, I say we get it to him.
Mayor. What's that?
I think the council needs to consider paying it under protest. Certainly that's a decision whether to contest it, go ahead and pay it, get the deed to the property transfer, and consider arguing that at that point, I just can't imagine the same property is now worth $600,000 after having been appraised just a few years ago for $150,000. The only reason it would be that high would be because of the development that we're effectively incentivizing.
And I think that's exactly right. I think that's what we're looking at is now it's a prime piece of commercial real estate.
Because we made it.
It was right.
And in comparison, we just bought about an acre for $145,000, up 3 blocks over from where this is. So just because Bass Pro's there, I think obviously what city attorney's saying, that it's something that the process is a long process. It's still long ahead of us now because it goes before the General Services Administration. They have to approve it at the state level, and until they approve it, it's not finalized. But we can't wait for that process. It could be 3 to 6 months.
And that's certainly part of the conversation I had today. How do we expedite this? If we bring you a check, how long does it take to cut through the red tape?
Well, I have another thing too, when, at the double closing, the biggest majority of Bass Pro property down there, that, the rest of the property, that's
Right.
actually 2 pieces of property down there.
Right.
So it's called the double closing, correct? So we had to show up, close, and then we actually gave them the money, they gave them.
Right.
Is the title clear to MPL, or does it have to come to us, and then we have to clear it to MPL?
I believe the state, when this transaction is completed, when we pay what the 71% of the appraised value is, when we do that, TDOT provides us the deed, and then I believe it may have to go to the Industrial Development Board to then go to NPL. But
Now, you talk about the deed.
right.
Now, you talk about the deed just for the firehouse, I'm talking about the rest of the property down there.
I think the rest of the property is taken care of.
So it's clear.
Yes.
You don't have to have our name on it, and then
Exactly. There was no previous restriction or anything like that on that property, so it's taken care of.
Can we not have our attorney draw back and make sure
mean, to my knowledge, there is, this is the only piece of property that has any kind of issue associated with it. And it's really the only piece of property left that we're talking about, because as you mentioned, Jackie, the other 28 acres or whatever that parcel size was, 30 acres, it's done. And they already have the title to it and all the rest, so.
I didn't know for sure about the way it was closed,
Right.
because they wouldn't sell it to them, they had to sell it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So the long and the short of it is, surprise, not exactly what we were thinking about or looking for, but it's it's an expedited process at this point. TDOT understands, and we need to get on with it.
I'd like to see us go ahead and do it.
Agreed.
Well, even in retrospect, I'm not sure what the council would have done differently. Would the council have let this project fail based on the contingency that this appraisal comes back this time? I certainly would think so. But yeah, if there are other properties at the city of East Ridge owns that have reversionary interest, I need to know about it. We can take care of it from you, but I haven't heard.
I do think, and I told this to the gentleman I spoke with today, and I said, it certainly is a good learning lesson for the city of East Ridge, that if we're interested in buying a property, buy the doggone thing. Don't buy, don't pay for part of it and have restrictions and all the rest. Buy the property, no restrictions, be finished with it, so you don't throw this on a council 20 years down the line who has no idea.
And that's where I think, if you want to say somebody dropped the ball, I think it would be the administration from 1999 that dealt with this project from the beginning. So I think that's who dropped the ball.
All right, well, since we're talking about it, did Brian's school clear? There's no
And let me say this too, that obviously the developers are very much aware of what's happening, and this does not, on the face of it, certainly this does not jeopardize the project going on the face of it. So I want to make that
They just want to
very
try
clear.
so they get started.
That's exactly right. That's exactly.
My next thing is, has Mr. Hyde signed up for the ICSC out in Vegas?
I have not. Thad has. Sent Thad because he's responsible for economic development, so we plug in with what's going on. I originally considered going, but I decided I
You already sent your money in?
We had. We're going to get refunds, yes, sir.
Okay, because I pulled it up on the internet and I see where both of you had already registered as a candidate.
And I have canceled.
You have a canceled, okay.
Thad's
So he's going for how many days?
at least 2 days.
Two.
I do know that you'll be out there with people from Collegedale as well. I know they're sending, I believe, the city manager and their economic development director as well. I'll be on personal vacation next week. I'll be in Las Vegas.
We, right now, we have retail strategies is already lined up, approximately a dozen meetings with prospective retailers. It's not an opportunity to get out there and speak to people. Just months ago, we would have never had a phone number, let alone have an opportunity for a face-to-face. So we're already going out there.
Well, speaking on travel, when I found out that you two were going, I went back, pulled up your agreement, work agreement, and the way I read it, you were supposed to bring all this to us.
Fine,
Yes, sir. Before you registered or anything like that. But that's all right.
Okay. Mr. Gravett.
I have
Okay. Mr. Manning.
It was brought up about the school property. Yes. If you remember, we was here at that time, and I was too. County folks furnished, we have
that would be something that should be easy enough to find out.
This is the deed to the school property?
Yes, sir.
Do you have anything else?
No, that's it.
Mr. Smith? I just want to remind everyone of a couple of things going on here in the very near future. We have, as Mr. Manning mentioned earlier, of course, Mayor Shaver passed away. Thomas Shaver passed away yesterday, and his visitation will be tomorrow at Chattanooga Funeral Home, the Moore Road, East Chapel. And service will be 10 o'clock Saturday morning in their chapel. And so obviously keep that family in your thoughts and prayers. Also on Saturday we have the Run to Feed 5K down at Camp Jordan. And we also have the Eastridge High School graduation at 2 o'clock Saturday afternoon. A busy Saturday coming up.
And I think they won't count on where Shaver's funeral.
Yes, the council will be honorary pallbearers at Mayor Shaver's funeral service. Seems like there's one other thing I can't remember.
Concert park, is that this weekend?
It's on the 23rd. So the 23rd, and then on the 24th is the East Ridge Day with the Atlanta Braves. Those are. Then on Monday we've got our Memorial Day service over here that we always have.
Fantastic. I do have also received let me say, I think it was our folks who did it, painted the I don't even know what to call it, the median islands, whatever they are over there at McBrien and South Terrace. Yes, it looks so much better.
Stand up.
Yes.
So we had several concerns, and then several of you spoke about it, and we had them address it.
Well done to everyone who had a role in that. I also received a complaint. I'm not going to tell the address here, but an address fairly close to where I live. Someone actually came to my door and said, "Hey, there's a house up here. It's a couple of houses down from me. They've got some issues going on in the rear of the property that codes needs to maybe take a look at." So I'll give you that address.
And
That was the first.
And also, I don't want to ask this, but right down, closing down 2 houses down there. It's got serious problems. But I know our inspectors that have been there before, and they would, they'd like what we live in there.
Right.
They're living there, there's some serious stuff going on.
Gotcha.
But this way, when somebody don't want to spray, it's serious.
All right, thanks, sir. All right, this time I'll turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. Of course, mentioned the library. We talked about that earlier. We'll discuss that, naming that after Susan McCrellis. Also, I'm going to need to bring the political signs to code to us so y'all can review that, see if you want to leave it alone, address it. We had some issues this past election year. It seemed like I was trying to make decisions for everything that was going on, and I felt like that was kind of maybe a little overwhelming at times because you're trying to control what your potential bosses or bosses are doing. That kind of puts me between a rock and a hard place. I'm not trying to get out of that, but I think we need to clarify and make everything clear if I'm to do it, and it's not real clear in that area. So I'll bring that, and I'll make sure you have a copy of it well before that. So Mr. Martin mentioned the Memorial Day service at 1 o'clock on Memorial Day right out front here. We'll have a lot of things going on then. Also, East Ridge Dizzy Dean Day at Turner Field, Sunday, May 24th, versus the Milwaukee Brewers. General admission $10, box seats 20, and so on and so forth. I believe it's we line up at the Hank Aaron ramp at 12:30 if you're going to go. So see Shauna Skiles, and we'll approach these around other places. That's all I have, sir.
And I wish if we do, Mayor, I invite everybody, please show up for the Memorial Day service out here because it's very, very important. Because we got some folks that serve in the service and other stuff, so if you can, invite everybody, we'll get, let's pack this place out. Because down through the year, we're slowly picking up a little bit more, but it's looking great out there. We had some ladies and other folks, some of our employees, and really put some hard work out there.
If we have rain, we'll move inside, so we do have an opportunity to here over the community center, we'll figure that out.
Fantastic. All right, at this time, we will move to old business. Item A, employee insurance.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce Mr. Tim White, the benefits lead, our insurance broker. We gave him the task of trying to come up with a cost savings without reducing our benefit, and he's done an excellent job at that. Our current premium is $1.474 million. The renewal is going to be $1.688 million. He got a proposal after negotiating and working with Blue Cross Blue Shield to bring that $1.688 $1,688,882 down to $1,388,000. Cost savings of $800,000 for the city of East Ridge going into our new premium year, which is July 1st, but it's going to be an actual savings the first year versus the current, next year versus the current year, $85,401. So, Tim, if you want to come up and just kind of talk a little bit, you hand some information out and just kind of hit the highlights and see there might be some questions from council.
Thank you. There's two things in your packet that I'd like to talk about first, and one is one has to do with cost, and the other has to do with benefit design. The first piece is on the, if you look, it's titled Financial Summary, and just as City Manager Hyde had just mentioned, last year you can. The columns represent, you've got the columns on the left that's titled current/renewable. Those are your current coverages, and those are your current costs with your renewal. If you look at like all your, outside of the medical insurance, everything that your HR administration, your vision, your dental, these are all things that the city is paying for. If those costs will remain constant if you were to choose to remain with or to renew without any changes. The medical, on the other hand, it did have a significant increase if you didn't make any changes. Your current cost is $1,474,154.32. With the renewal, it's $1,688,882.44. If you were to add that current number with all the numbers, with the $4,500 HRA administration, the $8,274 that you're paying for group life, the $3,765 that you're paying towards the vision, and $80,000 that you're paying towards the dental, that number represents that 1.571074 to the far left column down there. So that's your true cost for the city of East Ridge last year. That also, the number at the top also represents with Blue Cross, also represents the HRA, the component too, which is the deductible reimbursement that the city does on behalf of the employees. So that is your true cost. If you were to not make any changes, that current number up there with Blue Cross would be substituted with the $1,688,000. That would be your renewal with no changes, the $1,785,803. What we've proposed is modifying the plan with Blue Cross and Blue Shield and changing internally the HRA. again, we're not talking about plan yet, but just strictly cost. By doing that, and including the HRA piece, that lowers the projected cost to the city to $1,388,752. So a pretty significant savings, even over last year's premium. Now, a couple other things to note, and these are smaller numbers here, but everything adds up. Last year, Blue Cross and Blue Shield was charging the city $4,500 for their HRA administration. We've been able to get those fees waived, and you will no longer incur that admin cost. In addition, we conducted an RFP on the group life, and we were able to secure another $1,000 savings for the group life plan for the city without any kind of reduction in benefit. The vision has no increase at all. We were also able to lower the dental cost with the city by approximately $1,377.